KHOU-TV, Houston.
Space Center, Houston. A flyover salute in the sky. A hug for a newly fatherless child. America mourns its 7 Challenger heroes. Even as more debris is yielded by the sea, more evidence of a mission and a rescue that couldn't be. Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting tonight from the Johnson Space Center in Houston. This has been an historic day of emotion and remembrance here. Gathered together in mourning, the men and women of the space agency, the President and the First Lady, and families of the Space Shuttle crew. They gathered in a soft wind and under a warm Texas sun for a memorial service that was solemn and reflective and profoundly touching. There were thousands of space agency people who'd helped train the Challenger crew here, who'd worked with them and joked with them. There were the families of the crew, mothers, fathers, children, and for a few poignant moments, grieving families, the first family, stories of and the huge extended family that is NASA and the nation, all remembered.
We come together today to mourn the loss of 7 brave Americans. To those they left behind, the mothers, the fathers, the husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, yes, and especially the children. All of America stands beside you in your time of sorrow. The sacrifice of your loved ones has stirred the soul of our nation. And through the pain, our hearts have been opened to a profound truth. The future is not free. The story of all human progress is one of a struggle against all odds. Man will continue his conquest of space, to reach out for new goals and ever greater achievements. That is the way we shall commemorate our 7 Challenger heroes. Dick, Mike, Judy, Elle, Ron, Greg, and Krista. Your families and your country mourn your passing. We bid you goodbye. We will never forget you.
As it ended, many of the space agency workers in the crowd who've dreamed and reached for the stars for so long, reached to console each other. And all day long, the flowers arrived here from around the country, from so many others, remembering. Tonight, the flowers are still coming. Here on the grounds and in the hangars of the Space Center, there are mock-ups of the flowers of the shuttle fleet for illustration, for practice, to get ready for real. And they are important for understanding what happened to Challenger. Within minutes of today's memorial, members of the disaster investigating team held a formal meeting, getting right back to the task at hand. Off the Florida coast, more new evidence was being pulled from the sea. Still more was being detected, but so far unreachable beneath the waves. Bruce Hall has the latest on the search.
Recovery boats are continuing to find vital pieces of wreckage, some of them from Challenger's important cockpit section, floating on the surface more than 30 miles off the coast of Daytona Beach.
It looks to me like it might be the piece of the shuttle right underneath the windshield.
As wreckage is spotted by helicopters, smoke bombs are being dropped to mark the spots. Small boats move in and pick up the debris.
Every hour that passes disperses the debris more and more.
Investigators say some of the larger pieces have significantly aided the search for a cause of the explosion. The pieces brought to shore include A large section from the front of the fuselage, just below the cockpit. A long broken section of one payload bay door. An 8-foot part from the rear of one wing. And a hollow section of similar size forward on the wing. The discovery of such large pieces leads some investigators to believe that even bigger fragments of Challenger may rest on the ocean floor. Underwater robots are being called in by NASA to look at one large piece found by sonar. There are almost as many theories on the cause of the accident as there are pieces of debris. Theories ranging from the failure of the external tank or solid rocket boosters to a new one, upper-level wind shear causing structural damage.
I could probably generate 25 scenarios right now that would all fit what we saw on the TV. And all of them have to be investigated.
One TV image today, a section of debris recovered that was designed to guide recovery teams in saving the astronauts during an emergency on land or sea. Bruce Hall, CBS News at the Kennedy Space Center.
It's ironic that this is the largest piece of wreckage found so far. It's a piece of equipment designed to blow open an escape hatch to rescue the 4 people on the flight deck in an emergency. You can see how small the piece is next to the Challenger itself. It's a tiny part of a huge and complicated puzzle that investigators are trying to piece together. Here in the simulator where the astronauts trained, you can see that same piece of wreckage from the inside. Here on the middeck of the Challenger, below the flight deck, the middeck where Gregory Jarvis sat here, school teacher Krista McAuliffe there, and over there, mission specialist Ellison Onizuka. We'll have more later in the broadcast on the National Memorial Service from Houston. But first, the rest of the day's news after this.
Some of you will soon be receiving an important piece of mail. In it, you'll be asked to choose your long-distance phone company. Don't throw it away. And don't give that right to someone else. If you want to be sure to keep the same kind of full service you've always enjoyed with AT&T, check your mail, and then check AT&T. For over 100 years when you reached out, we were there. And you can keep it that way by sending in your ballot.
How's it going, Josie?
Oh, the usual. We all get scrubbed, but then they forget about me.
Me too. I don't usually look very clean or seem very fresh. Harriet, darling. She always looks so fresh and clean. How do you do it, dear?
Why, automatic Vanish. It's marvelous. Vanish dispenses tough detergents to help clean and deodorize me. The clean goes on and on. The blue proves it's working.
Your family must love having you around.
Automatic Vanish. The clean goes on and on and on.
President Reagan's spokesman issued conflicting reports today about the fate of Haiti's president for life, Jean-Claude Baby Doc Duvalier. The spokesman had to do some quick reversing. They announced first that Duvalier had fled Haiti after being deposed. Haitians in this country rejoiced, hoping and believing the news was true. But in Haiti, a state of siege was imposed, the rioting continued, and Duvalier himself went on the air to say the reports of his downfall were greatly exaggerated. Our coverage begins with Juan Vasquez, who returned today from Haiti.
The crackdown began at daybreak. In cities across the island, soldiers, police, and the feared militia, known as the Tonton Macoop, moved quickly to abort expected demonstrations. They used clubs and tear gas freely in an effort to smother dissent. But in some places in the countryside, the government's control was practically non-existent. Gangs of youths set up barricades along major roads in the northwest. The U.S. Embassy warned the estimated 5,000 Americans in Haiti to stay indoors. So far, the dissent is leaderless, but there is universal agreement among the protesters that President for life Jean-Claude Duvalier, known as Baby Doc, must go.
He get to leave. This is time to change.
But in a televised speech from his headquarters in the capital of Port-au-Prince, Duvalier said he was determined to stay. A military band played martial music at the presidential palace to underscore the mood of toughness. At least one person was reported killed in the capital as the government put on a show of force to disperse crowds and to convince the nation that even after 28 years, the Duvalier era isn't over yet. Juan Vasquez, CBS News, Port-au-Prince, Haiti.
This time they were sure it had happened. So the several hundred Haitians who gathered today outside a refugee center in Little Haiti again started celebrating the downfall of the regime most of them had fled. Freedom! Yes! But just like last night, their hopes were soon dampened.
We thought it was confirmed by Larry Speaks from the White House, and now we're in a situation of looking and seeing what's going to happen.
Last night, several thousand Haitians took to the streets as the rumor spread that baby Doc Duvalier had relinquished power. As reality set in, someone in a passing car is reported to have yelled, "Long live Duvalier." What followed was a small riot. One person was killed. Today, fewer people were out. The demonstration was peaceful. Only an effigy of Duvalier was trampled, signaling their hope for the future.
He has to face for the money he has stolen, for all the crime he has committed.
No matter what the uncertainty in Haiti tonight, there's joy here because the people still feel the downfall of Duvalier could come at any time. Lem Tucker, CBS News, Miami.
Shortly after Air Force One took off for Houston this morning, White House spokesman Larry Speaks ignited a global news alert by telling reporters aboard the plane the White House was informed shortly before 7:30 a.m. that the government of Haiti has collapsed and the leadership, including Duvalier, had fled the country. The State Department has been carefully monitoring the crisis in Haiti because of its strategic importance to our shipping lanes. So when officials here heard about the Speaks announcement, they warned reporters that the president may have been given bad information because all the U.S. Embassy in Haiti knew was there were unconfirmed rumors of a coup. A Haitian embassy spokesman here in Washington seemed perplexed and indignant about the White House announcement.
Contrary to earlier U.S. government and news reports, President Jean-Claude Duvalier continues to carry out his responsibilities as head of state.
There was more than enough confusion to go around.
It took a bit more energy to get my act into shape.
Spokesman Kalb carefully avoided blaming anyone for the coup that never happened.
I'm not in a position, don't have it, the specific post-mortem of precisely how these things happen.
Shortly after Speaks returned to Washington, the State Department put out the word that it was to blame for the foul-up. Bill McLaughlin, CBS News, State Department.
In a speech to his parliament today, South African President P.W. Botha promised to reform some aspects of the apartheid system of racial segregation. Promises, but no specific immediate changes.
We have outgrown the outdated colonial system of paternalism, as well as the outdated concept of apartheid.
Botha proposed changing the Haiti pass laws which regulate where blacks may live and work. He promised to restore citizenship and property rights, and he spoke of including blacks possibly on a government advisory council, but he stopped way short of instituting the one-man, one-vote system that blacks want. And he made no mention of ending the government-imposed state of emergency.
The special richness of Folgers crystals. Enjoy the same richness in decaffeinated Folgers crystals, made from Folgers mountain-grown coffee. The only decaffeinated with Folgers' rich aroma and those dark, sparkling crystals that burst into Folgers' deep, rich flavor.
That is rich.
Enjoy mountain-grown decaffeinated Folgers crystals.
I tell you, when the National Cancer Institute says eat more fiber and less fat, it's hard to ignore. So I checked out all the cereals, you know, the side of the box, and I found something new. All bran with extra fiber. The extra fiber makes it the highest fiber cereal out there. And when the National Cancer Institute says eat more fiber, I'm going to eat more fiber.
Kellogg's All Bran, and now All Bran with extra fiber, the highest fiber cereal ever.
An earthquake centered near Cleveland today rumbled through an area from Ontario to Washington, D.C., shaking parts of 9 U.S. states. No serious injuries were reported, but the quake shook the walls of Lake Catholic High School and sent goods spilling from supermarket shelves in Mentor, a Cleveland suburb. The U.S. Geological Survey estimated the quake registered 5 on the Richter scale, described officially as enough to cause considerable damage. Joggers, the elderly, and people with respiratory problems in Denver were warned to cut back on outdoor activities today, or even to stay indoors. That's because smog, rated as the worst in 11 years, blanketed the Denver area. Officials said air quality was, quote, extremely poor, twice as bad as acceptable levels set by the Federal Clean Air Act. Put another way, the smog was described as so thick you could chin yourself on it. GD Cyril and Company today announced it is withdrawing from the U.S. market 2 intrauterine devices. A spokesman said, quote, "We and many physicians deeply regret this action because it limits the choice of the American public in birth control methods," unquote. Susan Spencer explains the problems that led Cyril to make that decision and the problems that may lie ahead.
The IUDs the Cyril Company withdrew today are the most widely used in the country, a means of birth control for some 1 million American women. And so far, there are 775 lawsuits alleging that these devices, the Copper 7 and Tatum T, can cause sterility. But the company insisted today it acted only out of concern for the cost of litigation.
Our copper-containing IUDs are safe and effective when used in accordance with the prescribing information. However, the economic factors are simply too strong and too heavy to ignore.
Cyril got into the IUD market after A.H. Robbins got out, forced to pull its Dalcon shield in the face of charges that its device was unsafe. Robbins now faces more than $1 billion in lawsuits. Lawyers for women suing Cyril say that today's action isn't enough, that the Cyril IUDs also should be removed from patients.
The medical community will start to evolve their thinking into realizing that this is a device that does in fact cause injury and never should have been marketed.
But family planning experts worry what will happen without this birth control option.
And for some women, the IUD is an important option. And right now, we don't have anything available other than the Copper 7.
Although Cyril hopes its action will cut down on lawsuits, it may have exactly the opposite effect in the short run, as every woman who has ever used one of these devices begins to ask questions. Susan Spencer, CBS News, Washington.
The Army formally announced today that beginning in February, all active and reserve forces will be tested for AIDS. Anyone testing positive for the AIDS antibody will be restricted from serving overseas. Those who actually have AIDS will be given an honorable discharge. The testing of 1.5 million troops is expected to take 1.5 years to complete. In what the local sheriff called Mob Row, striking meatpackers today closed Hormel's flagship plant in Austin, Minnesota, with a barricade of cars. The shutdown came 2 days after National Guard troops withdrew. It followed a noisy pre-dawn rally by more than 400 union strikers and out-of-town supporters. A governor's spokesman called the sheriff's Mob Rule remark, and I quote, somewhat overstated, saying nothing particularly violent happened. Some 1,500 Hormel workers have been on strike since August, when the company cut wages.
There are 7 stars in heaven for everyone up there, but the memories of them leaving this earth will always be hard to bear.
IBM would like to take a minute to show you what it's been doing for years, supporting the arts. This goes to show that a company known for state-of-the-art technology can also be interested in the state of the arts.
Here along the Texas Gulf Coast at the Space Center, the focal point of today's sorrow and memory, but there were many memories and many ways of sorrow in many different places across our land. Bernard Goldberg surveys landscapes of healing and sadness.
They came from 7 different places in America, from small towns in the South, from snowy villages in the Northeast, from the Midwest and the Pacific Northwest, from Hawaii. This was a day for hanging black ribbons in Lake City, South Carolina, the town where Ron McNair grew up. McNair's buddy, LaRue Alfred.
He inspired so many people by doing this, and it inspired everyone around the community, young folks, old folks, black and white. He's the greatest hero that we ever had to come through here.
It was a day for remembering in Auburn, Washington, too, Dick Scobie's hometown, his lifelong friend, Phil Hagen.
Francis R. Dick Scobie, commander of the Challenger.
I was watching it, and my heart just dropped out. I couldn't believe it.
They remembered Ellison Onizuka in Kona, Hawaii. They cried for Krista McAuliffe in Concord, New Hampshire.
You couldn't realize what kind of nice person she was until you heard people say that stuff.
All right. We shall commemorate our 7 Challenger heroes.
The kids watched and the teachers cried in Beaufort, North Carolina. This is where shuttle pilot Mike Smith went to school. This is where the dream was born.
Everyone was caught up in a spirit ready to burst forth in celebration, because this young man is just such a classic example of a guy who had a dream, who had an ambition, and he was on the threshold of fulfilling it.
And they paid their final respects to Judy Resnick in a synagogue in Akron, Ohio.
It was as if Judy heard an inner voice constantly challenging her to greater achievements, to climb higher. As if the voice was telling her, remember, it's not what we are, but what we want. It's not what we are, but what we want to be.
In a tiny village in the foothills of the Adirondacks, at the Cozy Nook Diner in Mohawk, New York, they were sad, but they were also proud. Greg Jarvis was one of their own.
Well, for a small town, it's quite a feat to have somebody make it and go as far as he did.
You come from a small town, you come from a small school, but you still can make it to the top. You can be one of the best.
Tonight, in Concord, New Hampshire, they are remembering their schoolteacher who perished with the others. 7 Americans who came from 7 different places, drawn to the same place by just one dream. Bernard Goldberg, CBS News, New York.
Moms have the neatest way to ease you into things. Like when you were a kid and needed a laxative, she wouldn't give you a harsh laxative. No, she'd say...
Blood of so much of our nation's space program, we heard kind words and warm memories for 6 astronauts, 1 teacher, 7 Challenger heroes who died. Perhaps we should close this week not with our words for them, but with their words for us. The mission, the quest, in this week that tore us apart and brought us together as one.
90 seconds and counting. The 51L mission ready to go.
I see it as something that we must do, and I see it as something that's part of man's nature to explore as far as he can and as deep as he can into the unknown.
T-minus 1 minute and counting. Sound suppression water system now.
I'm very proud and humbled to have been a part of the space program. I think there is an awful lot to be done. The space shuttle is probably the most versatile vehicle we could have to do that.
T-minus 45 seconds and counting. The solid rocket booster flight in.
It's a great pleasure finally to get this far. I'm very proud to be part of the program at NASA. And the mission is a great mission. We're looking forward to it, and I think we understand it's ready to go, and we're looking forward to going to fly.
T-minus 30 seconds, and we've had a go for auto sequence start.
One of the things that I hope to bring back into the classroom is to make that connection with the students that they too are part of history, that the space program belongs to them, and to try to bring them up with the space age.
T-minus 15 seconds. Commander Dick Scobie now in the White Room.
You have to risk something to gain something, and the risk and the gain are worth it to me. If you allow risks to keep you from doing the things in life that pleasure you and make you what you are and make you feel better about yourself, I think you're shortchanging yourself.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, And liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Roger, roll, Challenger. Challenger, go at throttle up.
And so tonight, a pivotal point in our national healing process. Remembering the fire that consumed 7 of our own and 1 mighty machine. Remembering, too, the inner fire, the passion that helped them rush headlong to meet the future. They belong to the future now, and to our own treasured past. For CBS News, Dan Rather at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. We'll see you Monday. Good night.
Don't believe everything you hear about fiber laxatives. The truth is, only one brand is recommended by doctors more than any other. Only one offers you the sugar-free choice of NutraSweet. Only one offers all these flavors and forms. It's the one you've trusted for over 50 years, Metamucil. Original and sugar-free, with 4 times more soluble fiber than even Pure Bran, to help you maintain regularity. For the fiber you need every day, there's only one, Metamucil.
Incredible crowds have been reported at Color Tile stores this week. Why? Join me inside.
Could you tell us why all the excitement at Color Tile?
Oh, that's easy, darling. It's this beautiful half-price ceramic floor tile.
No! The reason is half price on this gorgeous mosaic tile.
Huh? It's half price on paint and wall covering that I came after. And this cuddly little blanket for buying only 80 bucks worth.
So, what are you waiting for? Color Tile's big half-price sale on right now.
I have a small business problem. My brother-in-law, Milton, couldn't sell tea in China. So I called the small business experts at AT&T, and they showed us new ways to use long distance to open a whole new territory. What'd you sell today, Milton?
6,000 switches.
Check the inventory? I have a small business problem.
Call AT&T Long Distance Services. We can help. AT&T, the right choice.
This is CBS.
A police car hits your car.